thank you both very much. Your participation is incredibly welcome in this discussion as well, so I will invite you to make your observations and ask your questions and share your recollections as well. So Mark, for many in this room, myself included, your dispatches from India over a lifetime are the stuff of legend. You are the chronicler of the nation. What does modern India look like to you?
Well, that's a huge question. But I think modern India, I first came to Delhi in 1965, so I've seen huge changes. I think modern India, to me, looks like a country which, as a meetup count has just told you, has a huge potential, but also has enormous problems which have to be resolved. The basic problem, of course, is the problem still of people who are not living a satisfactory living standard, particularly the problem of malnutrition, which is widespread among the poorest people of the country. I think also that, and I wrote a book about this many years ago called No Full Stops in India, where I said India needed to throw off the colonial legacy and become an India which was Indian. And when I wrote that book, I was interviewed by one of the harshest interviewers in Delhi, Karan Thapa, and he said, "You are trying to pull India back into a golden age which never existed." And I said, I'm not trying to pull India back into a golden age, but I do believe India is India. I do believe India is special. I do believe India has a huge contribution to make, particularly in the field of pluralism, religious pluralism, how to live plural lives. So I said to Karan Thapa, I said, in Hindi, I said to him, Ab kya chahta hai, Asli Bharat or Nakli America? And I said to him, what do you want? A true India or a fake America? And I still have the fear that if we are not careful, India will be dragged the way of becoming a Nakli America.
Ram, I will get your perspectives on this in a moment or so, but I just want to ask Mark to continue with his recollections. You first went to India, you first reported from India in which year?
First really 1966. Yeah.
Describe from the best of your recollection the India then.
The India then, well, not a happy place to have recollections of. It was a country which was suffering from a grave economic crisis, suffering from a grave food crisis as well, was described as living from ship to mouth. Consumer goods were in such short supply that diplomats were able to sell their second-hand underwear when they would leave the country and second-hand lipstick. And it was a country which was largely written off by really. It was hardly any new foreign investment, and many of the old companies were pulling out. So it's a huge change from there to what you're hearing about today.
And you have seen generations of
I've
change.
seen. Yes, I have seen this.
More than many, if you don't mind me observing. How would you?
I don't know whether I'm benefiting from it. I've seen it.
How would you describe those changes? What have you seen?
Well, I used to have a real battle with the BBC because I used to tell her
we all have that.
I used to tell her that the vulture is not the national bird of India, because whenever television teams came to India, they would look out for vultures as a symbol of sort of poverty, hopelessness, and all the rest of it. And I said to people, the peacock is more the national bird of India than the vulture, because the peacock is a very, very beautiful bird. So I've seen the attitude of the press change a lot to India. I've seen so many things change in the sense of, I think it was you, Ram, who said some rude remarks about Khan Market, didn't you? Well, Khan Market is a fashionable market in India. And one of the changes I've seen, of course, is all these brands and all these fashionable things you can buy there. And that changed the level of literacy, and a huge change with the telephones, of course, and the mobile phones. Everyone. You see the man sweeping the street, and he'll have a smartphone. I don't happen to have one, but there we are.
Do you think India is a happier place? It's clearly richer, clearly immensely technologically advanced. Is it happier?
Well, I think a big thing which has happened in India is India has become, Indians have become much, much more aspirational. And of course, with that aspiration comes for many of them frustration, because they're not able to earn the money they want or find the jobs they want. And that's why, as again, Ram knows much better than I can, one of the big emphasis in India has been and still is on creating jobs.
Ram Madhav, how does modern India look to you?
I was born when Mark started reporting about India. He has reported about India in all these years, and I have lived through that change. 21st century India is markedly different from 20th century India, which of course, as Mark Tully rightly mentioned, is very different. It's aspirational, it's ambitious, it is, I don't want to use the word aggressive, but definitely proactive. It is restless. Change is visible to people who know India. Through their naked eyes, it is visible. You see it in people, you see it on the ground. We have broken many conventions, established conventions. Indian democracy is a much more mature democracy today. Commentators like Mark would vouch for it. We used to think that in India, an average voter is always influenced by the fault lines of caste, religion, etc., or money. But today, the new India is different. No caste works, no religion works, no money works. Aspirations matter. For a what you call as an unruly element, for a bully, it is just not possible to win any election in India anymore. It's a mature electorate. It is an awakened India that is in front of us today. I just talked about politics, but in every field, you see a lot of change happening, a lot of new things happening, the aspirational India rising. There was a lot of talk about innovation in last two sessions. The innovation need not be at the all India level, at the global level, what you see. In an average Indian village, innovation is happening today. I can cite any number of examples. A boy who failed in his undergraduate course in Rajasthan developed a wheel that can remotely run the tractor in his father's farm field, so that his father need not toil in the sun. He can sit under a tree and run his tractor remotely. It's a very localized innovation, but an undergraduate failed student is innovating it. This is the level of aspiration, this is the level of ambition today you see in India. Mark me, in India today, the fight is no longer about rights. You know, unfortunately, because there was a reference to Khan market, so-called consensus, which has become Khan market cacophony nowadays. Their discourse is outdated today. The Dalit in India, the scheduled caste in India, is no longer talking about this right or that right. He is actually talking about his participation, his role. He wants to be a partner in the growth story. He wants to be a decision maker. No longer about right to have food with others, right to live with others equally. These are all taken. These are all given. So a new India, which is missed out by many people who fail to understand India's contemporary reality. That new India is what we see today. I see a lot of change sweeping across the whole country.
To borrow Sir Mark's phrase, is 21st century India, India, or is it mini America?
Oh, no. In fact, 21st century India is definitely no mini any country. 21st century India is going to be the real Bharat. It will inherit its grand old civilizational values, grow on that strength, present a new model. Yesterday there was one very important reference in one of the speeches that when India grows, it grows in a different way. India's growth trajectory need not necessarily be same as a European country or a Western country, an America. Its growth trajectory will be different. It is very Indian. That's why I said when it grows, it will become more of a Bharat, the very Indian name of India, than a mini America or any other country. I just want to make one small submission. You asked if Indians are happier today. Definitely, very happy Indians are much more happier than before because they experience this change in their daily lives. I would say they are happier and they are clear in their minds about what their future is in store, what their present is all about. Then probably, don't take my otherwise, people in UK who are not able to decide on one important question. Here some. We are very clear who we want. We decided, period. We gave power to somebody. We said, you rule this country. They are very clear, they are very happy.
The discussion, the subtitle for the discussion is The Irony of India. And I think part of the thinking behind that is whether there is a conflict between progress, technological advance, modernization, and traditional cultures, Indian identity. Is there a conflict?
I don't see any conflict between these two things. India is always a very adaptive society. It has always been very adaptive to change. So whatever modern development that is happening in India, as I said, it is different from how it is happening elsewhere, what is happening elsewhere. It is different. It is very much Indian. We are taking ideas from everywhere. We are applying to Indian reality based on Indian experience. So I do not see really any conflict between the modernity and the traditional value system that India is always known for.
Sir Mark.
Well, I wouldn't entirely agree there. I do agree with the fact that, of course, India has made tremendous progress, tremendous changes. But I think if you look at the middle classes in India, if you look at the car markets, shopping centres, and all the rest of it, you see the danger of consumerism which is something which I believe personally is something which encourages greed, and greed is totally alien to all religions, including, of course, Hinduism. The other thing I would say is that I would like to see India demonstrate manifestly its great tradition of religious pluralism, because this is something which is hugely wanted in the world today. And India has this tradition. And you know, India, we have wonderful different Hindu traditions. We also have different Islamic traditions. And to illustrate this to you, where I live in Nizamuddin, there's an Islamic Sufi tradition in a shrine in Nizamuddin, where Muslims say prayers to the shrine and listen to music, which is totally alien to the Islam most of you hear about, the Wahhabite type Islam, which is represented by the Tablighi movement right next door to the shrine of the saint. So what I'm saying is that this tradition is there in all religions in India. In my religion, in Christianity, we're proud to say that the first reunion of the Anglican Church with other Protestant churches took place in India, in the Church of South India. And this is the tradition I think India should present to the world. And recently we tried, without success, to organize a conference of religious leaders on environment. Because Amitav Ghosh, in a book he wrote on the environment, had said that the loudest voice there could be on environment is the voice of religious organizations. And we thought that India would be the ideal place to hold this because of its ancient tradition of pluralism, because of its present tradition of pluralism, in that, as I've said, the different ways the faiths are behaving, and of course, in the way that the Indian culture has always had a profound respect for nature and has always regarded ourselves as part of one great unity rather than ourselves as being dominant over nature. So that's what I would really like to see.
Do you think that religious pluralism, as you describe, is weaker today than it has been?
No, I don't think at present it is weakened, but I do think that, and with great respect to Ram and to the RSS, I do think that we need to make sure that influential organizations like the RSS are seen as promoting religious pluralism. And the government itself is seen to be, as Ram said, not conducting its politics or its governance on religious lines. I don't know what Ram would say to that.
No, absolutely. Nobody can disagree with the fact that the Indian culture has always upheld the idea of Bahudha, what you describe in English as pluralism. Teaching pluralism to India is like carrying coal to Newcastle. We have been pluralist. India is India because of its tradition of not just pluralism in the sense that multiple things coexist, but in the sense that we validate, respect, and celebrate diversity. That is our tradition. Mark talked about the mosque in Nizamuddin area. I can give you the example of a synagogue right in the middle of a predominantly Muslim area in Mumbai. Only possible in India. Because of that age-old tradition of respect and celebration of diversity. So, as long as that culture is there in India, there is no challenge or no threat to pluralism in India at all. Having said it, I must underscore one point. Pluralism cannot be a one-way street. If you expect one community to practice pluralism, you must also expect everybody else to follow pluralism. You can't say that I will follow my own path and expect all others to be pluralist. It doesn't work that way, not just in India, anywhere in the world. So everybody should be pluralist in his thinking, in his approach. That is what is Indian culture all about.
What do you have in mind when you say that? Who was that remark aimed at?
Those who do not believe in pluralism, aimed at them. There are people who do not believe in the very idea of pluralism. My God is the only God. My God is the only right, true God. Whoever believes in it, whoever refuses to respect other practices, other ways, other religions, is an enemy of pluralism. So Indian tradition teaches everybody. That is why I gave you the example of a synagogue in the midst of a Muslim locality in India. Because that is what Indian culture teaches, irrespective of your religion. It teaches that you have to respect the validity of all religions, not tolerate them. Tolerance is arrogance. I tolerate you, are a bad fellow, still I tolerate you. We said no, not just tolerance, you have to respect it. You have to validate it and respect it. Yes, I am right, you are also right. That is Indian tradition.
Well, Ram, I just say one thing. In Nizamuddin, where I live, there's a fine Islamic scholar who you know.
I know very well.
Maulana Wahiduddin
Wahiduddin Khan.
The Maulana Sahib, he always says, I took a Christian bishop to meet him, the Bishop of Kingston, and the Maulana Sahib always says, I believe Islam is the truth, but I have a deep respect for all other religions. And I think that's as far as you can expect people to go. You cannot have a pluralism where you say everyone should believe in one thing, be it Hinduism, be it Christianity, be it whatever it is. Although in theocratic societies people try and do that, but thank God India is not a theocratic society. But what you can have, and what I believe you have more than perhaps you believe, is you have a society, a country, where people are, for the most part, saying, this is the way I'm a Hindu, that man there is a different Hindu, this is the way I'm a Muslim, that man there is a different Muslim. I really believe you have that, basically.
Absolutely. Maulana Wahiduddin Khan has attended many RSS conclaves for his belief in respect for different faiths.
Yes.
That is precisely what I said is the Indian way, the very traditional, the culture that you talked about. That is what Indian culture stands for. And you have been in India for many years. You chose one example. If you wanted, you could have chosen other examples in India. I know that. There are Wahiduddin Khans and there are just the opposites in India. That's a different story. But as I said, irrespective of one's personal religion, the belief in that ancient Indian dictum that we should not only tolerate, again, my problem is, my God is right, okay, I will tolerate you. That is not India. India is, my God is right, but your God is also right. I not only tolerate, I validate your religion, I celebrate it. Can we reach that level? That is what we call as Sarva Pantha Samadar. We don't just call it pluralism. And I don't think there is any English equivalent word for what we call as Sarva Pantha Samadar.
Sure. The reason this is topical, partly, is because there is commentary, you will have seen it in some of the media, that the current government of India attaches more importance to religion and religious difference than previous governments did.
No, as I said, many times those who cannot fully appreciate Indian cultural traits tend to misunderstand India. I often quote one statement by Walter Anderson. He used to say that it is very difficult to understand the Indian culture and very easy to misunderstand it. People tend to misunderstand the things that happen in India. Our government never discriminates against anybody on the basis of religion at all, period. Religion is never the basis for any policy of our government. Our Prime Minister repeatedly talks about the welfare of 101.3 billion people. The presentation sometimes given to the audience outside is mostly not based on facts.
Well, Ram, you know, I was talking last time today to a physicist who's also a Sanskritist and a scholar. And he was complaining to me and say, why does the press talk about Modi as the great divider and that sort of thing? And I said, I agree as someone who's a journalist. I've always tried to do balanced journalism. I'm wearing this waistcoat today. Do you know why? Because it could be called a Nehru coat or a Modi coat nowadays. So I've always tried to retain this balance. But you know, you as a government, I believe, and you as the RS, I believe, have to make manifestly clear that when things like lynching do occur, when the Muslims have the caps torn off their heads and that sort of thing. I'm not saying it happens that many times. It doesn't happen that many times, considering the huge population. But to my mind, you have to realize the impact of just one lynching alone. And you have to make sure then that your government, in every way possible, condemns that lynching, including public statements about it.
India is a country with 1.3 billion population. We ideally expect the whole country to be ever perpetually peaceful. In spite of our best efforts, there could be one or two instances of different nature of violence which are immediately taken care of. In India, law and order is a state subject. The concerned states take immediate steps, immediate measures to punish the culprits, whoever are indulging in such acts. But I can tell you, there is a disproportionate propaganda about each such incident. Many times, the incident is purely of a law and order nature, purely. It has no religious overtones. Sometimes the victim happens to be a Hindu. Then, including Mr. Tully, everybody will be silent. Nobody will talk about that incident. Then that is not highlighted anywhere in BBC reporting and all that. But suppose he happens to be from any other religion. I'm saying even if he is of no religion, he is an atheist, he should be highlighted. But simple law and order problems are also sometimes exaggerated as though the whole country is going after a particular religion and all that. Whereas the reality is, the whole country is standing by the policies and programs of this government. And this party, this government, has secured the most inclusive mandate ever in this country. 17 big states in India have given 50 to 53% popular vote to Modi. This is across religion. Muslims, Christians, Hindus, everybody voted for him. It's an inclusive vote. I'm not for a moment supporting any bad incident of violence happening anywhere in the country. The government's act. People are arrested, people are punished. But we expect that every time something happens, Prime Minister should give a statement, then only we will be happy. It doesn't work that way in India. Please be assured, in India, everybody will be secure. Everybody's life will be safe, secure. And I tell you, they will be more secure than people in many European countries today.
Okay,
they will be happy.
Let's talk about India's place in the world. And India's strategic relationships with some nations, partnership, with others, competition. For example, China. What is India's current thinking, current relationship with China?
In the last 5 years, in fact, I talked about it yesterday also, I think. In the last 5 years, we have practiced a slightly different kind of foreign policy in which we have dehyphenated our relationships with different countries. The result is today we have fairly good, stable relations with China on one hand and of course USA on the other hand. One major factor that has helped us in maintaining stable relations with China has been the personal equation between Prime Minister Modi and President Xi Jinping. Last 5 years have seen us coming together on a number of occasions. We are working together in the regional forums like SCO. We have been able to manage the borders quite well in last 5 years. I am an avid China watcher. I have seen so much of turbulence happening on India-China border, India-Tibet border in the past, but in the last 5 years, especially after the Doklam settlement, things have been very normal. We haven't heard much about incursions. That shows that on both sides there is a realization that we have to work together, that is in the interest of both the countries. We have fairly good relations with China today.
Well, yes, I certainly agree that India's relations have changed. And I certainly agree that Mr. Modi has done remarkable things, traveling around the world, building up relations with different foreign leaders. The problem with Pakistan continues, and I can understand the Indian attitude that until Pakistan stops promoting violence, there can be no talks. I personally wish India would take the initiative, but that's a different matter. But on China, I was recently attending the launching of a book on the McMahon line, the line drawn by the Simla Conference in 1914. And at that launch, I was on the panel, and I put forward the proposal. I said that I think that Mr. Modi, who likes to have big achievements to his name, might well, because of his good relationship with the Chinese leader, might well be the one person, because also he has the political strength at home to cope with any backlash to this, might be the person to reach an agreement on the Chinese border based on the agreement which was twice offered by Deng Xiaoping and Chiang Kai-shek years back now. But the agreement basically is the border in the west, India surrenders the Aksai Chin to China, and in the east, China agrees on the McMahon line. And I think that's a possibility, but Ram is much more than I do.
No, I don't want to give any view on such sensitive issues, but on a lighter note, you see, what I grab is mine, what yours will be settled in the agreement. It doesn't work that way. So anyway, having said it, right now we are at a stage where we are delineating the line of actual control. There is what we call as line of actual control post the 1962 war between India and China. There are disputes over line of actual control also. So we are right now in the process of finalizing that LAC. Once LAC is finalized, we will certainly discuss about the status of Aksai Chin, because it was history tells us that it was occupied in a continuous long aggression which went on until 1962. So right now the challenge for India is to finally come to an agreement on LAC. There are a few spots which we have to still finally agree upon. Once that happens, we have to make sure we both countries maintain peace along LAC pending the final settlement, final border settlement.
We have seen China expand its economic influence around the globe, particularly with the Belt and Road Initiative. Does India view that as a strategic threat, or are you largely indifferent to it? Or would you like to be part of it?
We are not a part of the BRI, Belt and Road Initiative. One is a very important sovereignty-related question. A part of the BRI passes through the Pak-occupied Kashmir. Any effort to join BRI automatically means that India has conceded its rights over POK to Pakistan, because that branch of BRI is called CPEC, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. So that is a sovereignty question involved. That's one reason why we are not a part of BRI. The second point, which I have said, we have said many times, is that you see, this whole initiative was offered to the world as a fait accompli. It was told to all of us that Belt and Road Initiative is an initiative that will benefit many countries, so you take it. Now, our point has been that if it is a multilateral initiative, if it is supposed to benefit many countries should be stakeholders in it. It cannot be that one country will decide which is good for all the countries and then offer it as a fait accompli. You take it or don't take it. Then India said, all right, we don't take it. Let England wants it a road, let you take it. But India decided we won't take it. So firstly on sovereignty grounds, secondly on issues of stakeholdership, we decided we will be out of it. Whether it is a strategic challenge to India, we will deal with all types of strategic challenges appropriately. India is also a big country. India is no longer a pushover. It's a big country. We know how to safeguard India's interests without disturbing peace, without disturbing stability in the region, in the larger world. We know how to protect India's sovereign interests or strategic interests.
This is the point that we are getting to. The narrative, particularly in Britain and the United States, the view is China and India are the great global rivals of this century. How correct is that?
We are not fighting. It's USA and China who are having a big trade war. We are not rivals. We are two rising Asian powers. Since we both are located in same geographical area, we both are massive populations, we both are big energy guzzlers, there is competition inherent. We both scout for same resources. We are in same area. There is competition inherent, but we are two mature nations. We shall not let this competition turn into conflict. That much maturity we will have. We don't have any big power rivalry going on between us at the moment.
But only one of you is a democracy.
Yes, we are proud about our democratic credentials.
So Mark, we've seen India become this economic titan, this economic superpower. Becoming and become. Does it become a political leader in the rest of the world? Does India reach the point soon where it also leads the world in terms of politics and political thought?
Well, no, I don't think India will do that, actually. I think India, if it sticks to its culture, which we were talking about, would like to cooperate with the rest of the world very much. But I come back to it, we're talking about the world, that great fundamental belief which was so well stated by Rabindranath Tagore when he said, in the West, we believe, you believe in people living separately from nature. We in India believe we are all part of one great unity. And if India preserves that philosophy, then it certainly won't want to lead anywhere, because if you're part of something, you don't say, I want to be the leader. That puts you apart. So that's what I would hope India would seek to be.
Do you want to lead? You know, the opportunity is there. President Trump is stepping back from global leadership, taking the US out of multilateral arrangements. There's a gap.
No, we are already leading in certain areas like climate change, for example. The Paris Protocol is being led and taken forward by Prime Minister Modi and India today. We play our role as a responsible nation in the world today. But the fact remains that India has grown in its stature and reputation in the world today. The whole world looks up to India for leadership in, not necessarily leadership when I say, not as a political leader or a military leader. As one of the responsible leaders in the world, India is also looked up to by the world today. We are there in regional alliances, we are there in global alliances, we are there everywhere. India has arrived.
Let's take some questions. If you have a question, put your hand up. We'll get a microphone to you, and you should tell us who you are and what organization you represent. We've got one here and one towards the back, so whichever microphone gets to its intended target first. Go ahead.
I've got a really serious question.
How judgmental.
I know. Wait till he hears mine now.
Right, quickly ask yours.
It's one of the biggest ironies of India that despite being a culture that celebrates women, we don't have enough women in role model positions coming out of India. And is that a place where India could take leadership?
Women in which organization said?
In general, role model positions and promoted a lot more than perhaps we see in any of the world.
I'm not sure what you meant by women in important roles. India has had a prime minister who was a woman, a president who was a woman, Chief Justice of India was a woman. Even in Modi ji's cabinet, 6 most powerful ministers are all women. It is one government which is, until recently even the foreign minister was a woman, defense minister was a woman. Lots of important portfolios were held by women. In India, women are playing an increasingly important role in public life.
May I just clarify the point? Do you mean India is an example to the rest of the world because of its record, or do you mean India has done well in certain selected roles, but more must be done in society as a whole?
Yeah, I think the biggest irony is perception is different to reality.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, what can we do more to show that?
But is that empowerment of women consistent throughout all levels of society, not just in the educated elite?
We have what, in fact, Indian tradition has always upheld the status of women as very high esteem. In the contemporary public life also, even in our elected bodies, do you know that in our local bodies, that village self-governments, district self-governments, 33% of the seats are actually reserved for women. Only women can lead those bodies. The result today is, don't think that we have 33% women in local bodies. 50% women are there in local bodies because 33% anyway they win, and out of the general 66%, they will again win in 15-16%. As a result, in local bodies, you see almost 50% of the women leading our governments at the local level. So perception, of course, is an issue that probably we have to address, but reality is in India, in public life, in India, in all walks of life, women are in the forefront. I have seen NASCAM is headed by a woman now. Yeah, yesterday you had her here in the session.
With the shield of having published the 100 most influential women in UK India relations, now for a serious question. No, it is actually a very serious question. Mark, what do you think of Twitter? Twitter. Social media and Twitter as a means of communication and as a means of media generally. People consume media through Twitter these days. Rama, there's a very prolific person on Twitter, so is Donald Trump. What do you make of social media and Twitter in particular?
Well, I have to say, first of all, I neither Twitter nor Facebook nor anything like that. But to me mind, I would put it quite simply. I knew in my reporting days that India was a land where rumors spread very rapidly. And I would just say that Twitter and these things are very dangerous simply because they give far greater power to that power to spread rumors, which was always inherent in India. That's the danger, I think.
No, I say be active on Twitter, but don't Twitter your way to conclusions. For conclusions, for understanding, go to more serious sources.
But it is a powerful tool of political engagement.
Undoubtedly. We use it in a big way, not just Twitter. Our party uses social media as an important tool in propagating our ideas, our organizational network. We use social media to connect with our cadres. It's an important medium for political communication, undoubtedly. But you should not Twitter your way to understanding everything.
Do governments have enough authority and oversight of the social media companies?
They enjoy full freedom. Media freedom is extended to social media bodies also. But yes, we are putting in place certain measures which ideally those companies should follow themselves. They should have a system of their own verification, their own control on the content. Otherwise, Indian cyber laws will deal with those issues.
This company should really be exercising this control just through a sense of decency and dignity, preventing
in fact, our experience
images
is
of self-harm, images of mass murder. What
No,
type,
in
what
fact-
type of company thinks it's acceptable to have that on its platform?
it has its own self-regulatory mechanism as far as India goes. I know that in India, they suddenly, deregister handles, all that they do. But I don't know if it is done in a thoughtful manner. Sometimes they actually discontinue good handles and continue propagating those who are spreading lies and all those things. But self-regulation is the best way to go forward in all these things.
Yes, of course.
Very quickly, I have an experience of twittering and fake news in that 3 dispatches claimed to be written by me, circulated and continue to appear, indicating that I am wildly anti and being quite abusive about the Congress Party and Sonia Gandhi, and indicating that I've said such things as hold up your hands and cheer for Modi, neither of which I would ever say in a report. One of these reached the notice of the then Information and Broadcasting Minister. So he rang me up and said, "Did you write this?" And I said, "No." And I said, "I have told the police, I have told the Foreign Affairs, I have told everyone I can think of that these are luckily false reports." And the Information Minister, who's now the Vice President, said with a chuckle, "We have our problem with this sort of thing too." So
I remember that post, which was attributed to
the
you.
government does have problems with this.
We'll take a few more if
Fake
we have them. There's a hand over there and a microphone just to your right.
Yes, hi, my name is Ratun Lahiri. I am a diehard Indian, though I've lived much of my professional life abroad. My question is this, since we have so many, such veteran journalists on the stage, my question is this, is mainstream journalism, losing its fiber? Because, when I was growing up in India, Time magazine was something I used to read a lot, and used to really revere. And it came out with the title Divider-in-Chief for Prime Minister Modi just before the elections, and just after that came the very next edition was Unifier-in-Chief. I lost my respect for time, after that. And in plane, even in aircraft, when time is offered to me, I say, no, thank you. Anything else?
The question is whether modern media is as reliable as reportage in your day?
Well, I don't want to criticize my fellow journalists, obviously. But certainly it was a rather strange volte-face, if I could put it that way. I think there has always been, in my long experience of reporting in India, a trend in the reporting. I think there is a trend in the Western journalism to be critical of Mr. Modi, and particularly to be critical of his policies and his actions which involve religion. There is that trend, but there will always be some people who will buck the trend. My own view is that one should not go in for extreme remarks like that in either way, in either direction. One can say what you believe to be true, but you must say it in a modest, truthful manner, and in a manner which does not outrightly condemn anyone or outrightly necessarily support anyone. Because in the end, we are there to try and report what's happening on the ground. And what's happening on the ground is never totally wonderful or totally ghastly.
Question here towards the front. The microphone is on your left.
Sir Tully Rugani from Sydney, Australia. You've been travelling to India before I was born as a journalist, but I'd really like to hear some of your fondest moments of India. Just what you thought of India and why you kept going back for over 50 years, and what attracts you to India on a regular basis.
Why did you fall in love with India?
Fond memories.
Well, that's a good question. I always say I didn't fall in love with India. India is a country which sometimes you're thinking I can't live anywhere else. Other times you think, why am I living in this madhouse? Particularly if you're driving a car in Delhi. But I've always believed, and I wrote a book all about this in Fate. And I think that's an Indian thing to believe in my karma in a way. And I wouldn't say I fell in love with India, but I would say it's my karma, my fate to have been in India. And I would hasten to add, it's a fate I'm very happy about. But I think to say I'm in love with it would be a little like I was saying earlier, an excessive statement.
What is your favourite memory of life in India?
I think one of my favourite memories is of a wonderful politician called Chaudhry Devi Lal, who was a very much a rural figure, a rural farmer. And I went to see Chaudhry Sahib one day. I have many stories about him. I went to Chaudhry Sahib one day, and he was in a very bad mood. And I said to him, Chaudhry Sahib, aap kyon naraz hai? Why are you so angry? And Chaudhry Sahib said, I'm not angry, I'm bored. And I said, why? He said, I hate this table work, you see. Then I said, but it's very important table work. You're discussing the party's manifesto. And he looked at me in horror and said, you fool. I can't count the number of elections I've fought in this country, but I can tell you I have never read a single manifesto. that was...
A good note on which to end our discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, Samar Tully and Madhav. Thank you.